morning. Thank you. Harlem is a magic word. It fascinates people all over the world. They come up to you and say, "Oh, you're from Harlem. You must be that basketball team, the Harlem Globetrotters." Well, I guess our dancers could be a basketball team if they wanted to. They have this idea that they can be anything they want to be. I have to confess, they learned that from me. I think it all started when I was about 3 years old. We were living in Harlem, across the street from an elementary school. And every morning, I'd watch all these kids march into the school. And it looked pretty interesting. So every morning, I'd follow them. And every morning, the teacher would walk me back out again. And they'd say, "You can't go to school. You're not old enough." I guess I didn't believe them because I just kept on going. Finally, the principal threw up his hands and he said we might as well let him come in. I went to public school and junior high school in Harlem, and like everybody else, I belonged to a street gang. First, we were called the Rebels, and then we changed our name as we got older to become the Hilltop Lovers. I remember I had a red satin jacket, and on the pocket it said, "Artie Baby." By the time I was 12 years old, my father was sick, and I was pretty much the head of the family. I got a job in a butcher shop on Saturdays. I did other odd jobs. I worked as a janitor. I mean, I would do anything. And if I thought about my future at all, I wanted to be a teacher, but most of all, a social worker. I never, ever thought about being a performer. Anyhow, one day there was a class party at Junior High 43. And I was hamming it up doing the Lindy or the Jitterbug. And the guidance teacher said to me, "Why don't you try out for the High School of Performing Arts?" It was a brand new school offering professional instruction in dance, drama, and music. There was only one problem. I had to prepare a 3-minute dance routine for an audition. Well, I didn't have any formal training, but I loved Fred Astaire. So I rented this top hat, white tie, and tails, and I went to the audition. And you've all seen Fame, so you know what that scene is like. All these other kids were doing complicated ballet routines, so I just went in and I sold it. I did something like this. "Stepping out with my baby, it's for sure, not for maybe, that I'm all dressed up tonight in my top hat, and my white tie, and my tails." I'm auditioning for a show here. Mitchell, sit back and relax, and Gregory Hines has nothing to worry about. Well, to say the least, they accepted me into the school. I think because, 1, I had guts, 2, they needed boys. At Performing Arts, they put me in modern dance, and I couldn't do a thing. At the end of the first year, they did me a terrific favor. They told me space was limited, I should quit and find another career. Well, that did it. The minute they told me I couldn't be a dancer, I said, "Oh yeah? I'll show you." I went upstairs to the studio and I started working out so hard I wound up in the hospital with torn stomach muscles. But I began slowly to acquire the technique. I needed to become a dancer. Now, one of the good things about the High School of Performing Arts was that we got a chance to try out for professional work while we were still in school. I tried out for everything, even Goldilocks. The trouble was, they'd say, "Yeah, you're pretty good, but we're not doing a black show." In those days, they never used both black and white dancers in the same show. That's Pearl Bailey and myself in House of Flowers, one of the shows I did. I'd say, well, we both have changed a little. But I kept thinking, there has got to be someone out there who will look at talent instead of color. That's the positive side of me. I always thought being bitter was a waste of time and energy. Say, for instance, if this building were to fall down right now, I'd say, okay, why did it happen? How can we improve the next one? In 1952, I graduated from high school and was offered 2 scholarships, one to Bennington College, which was just beginning to accept boys, and the other to the School of American Ballet, which is the official school of New York City Ballet. It was a really tough choice. I could fulfill my dream of going to college, or I could start studying classical ballet at the age of 18, which is totally unheard of because one knows you theoretically should start when you're 7 or 8 years old. I also knew it would be very, very, very tough and hard. And even if I succeeded, where could I go? There wasn't a single black dancer as a permanent member of any of the major ballet companies in the United States of America. One of the famous dance critics of the day helped me make up my mind. He wrote, and I'm quoting, "It is wise for the American Negro to avoid ballet because its European history and theory are alien to him culturally, temperamentally, and physically." Hogwash, okay? Well, that was the challenge I couldn't pass up. I remember lying in bed one night and thinking, because you see, I was too poor to afford to go to a psychiatrist, so I had to solve my own problems. I said to myself, if I can take the discipline and the training of the classical ballet and put that together with what I already had, which was jazz, modern, ethnic, and tap, I would be so good they'd have to use me.
Well, we were very happy to have him. He was professional. He's always been very professional. Arthur had a very supple body, and he understood perfectly. He accepted the whole thing. And the marvelous thing was that he knew it was hard, and he did it very well.
Not too bad, Mitchell. When Lincoln Kirstein and George Balanchine asked me to join New York City Ballet, they opened a whole new world for me. They really made everything possible. Mr. Balanchine was totally colorblind when it came to dancing. I was very privileged and honored to have him choreograph a number of wonderful parts for me, including Puck in A Midsummer Night's Dream. If I could only do it now. Mind remembers, but the body doesn't respond. But what I learned from Mr. Kirstein and Mr. Balanchine, I'm still using today. The discipline of classical ballet prepares you for anything, and I mean anything. You'll be a better tap dancer with that training, a football player, a swimmer, or even selling computers. You'll have more concentration, more confidence, more strength and energy and control. Being a member of a dance company also teaches you to work with others, to depend on them, and to realize that they depend on you. Even big stars need the support of a team. While I was at the New York City Ballet, I also studied acting and singing. I mean, I was taking classes and everything because I wanted to be the best performer possible. I wanted to succeed so that other black dancers could say, if he can do it, so can I. Unfortunately, it was all too obvious that the barriers were still there. Mr. Balanchine got a lot of flack about a black man dancing with a white woman. In one case, a major network thought their stations across the country would refuse to carry the show I was in, and they asked Mr. Balanchine to replace me. He told them, God bless his soul, that if Mitchell didn't dance, neither did the company. That's the prima ballerina Suzanne Farrell and I in Agon by Stravinsky and Mr. Balanchine. In 1967, I began spending a lot of time in Brazil, helping them to set up the National Ballet Company there. It was on one of those trips to Brazil, in the airport in April '68, that I heard the news that was to turn my life upside down. Martin Luther King had been assassinated. I remember sitting on the plane crying and thinking, here I am going thousands of miles to help people in another country. I should be home here in America helping my own.
The shock of the death of Dr. Martin Luther King sent me, as it did millions of people around the world, into an aimless wandering, wondering how we could find a way to perpetuate the man's dream. Arthur came to the conclusion that the best thing that he could do was to form a dance company, to share what he had learned over the years with the children in the streets of Harlem. It was not his intention to make dancers of all the youth of Harlem. What he wanted to instill in them was the discipline that had gotten him to where he was, dedication, and what could be achieved as a result of that and hard work. I could still see him with Yvonne Hall and Sandy Pfeiffer, two of the original dancers, marching them into this cold, gray, stone, brick garage.
Well, you know, I was one of those little kids that took class in that garage. And my fondest memory of Mr. Mitchell was of him saying to me, you can be whatever you want to be.
I didn't even realize, really, that black people were not classical ballet dancers because I saw him on the stage. So I just assumed, okay, it was all right for me to do it.
I grew up in Chicago in the ghetto, and little did I know from that day of my being exposed to dance, would I someday become a principal dancer with a major ballet company.
It's a dream come true, and I think sometimes it's a miracle.
The only miracle is that we survived. We started in a cement garage with 30 students, 2 teachers, and no money. In a couple of months, there were over 200 youngsters in the school. Their mothers would bring them and stand around and watch in hours in awe. The street gangs would come in. The garage mechanics from next door would come in. They couldn't believe what was going on. A lot of people were involved in those early days, and I'll always be thankful and grateful to them for their dedication and help. My co-founder, Carl Shook, a superb dancer and choreographer. Ballerinas like Tanakia Leclerc, who came and taught from the wheelchair. The Ford Foundation, Mrs. Alva B. Gimbel, and last but not least, IBM, who sponsored our first television special in 1971. Thank you, IBM. We needed all the help we could get. I was trying to train a company, teach classes, turn an old garage into a studio, be a company manager, and find scholarship money to keep it all going somehow. I remember what Mr. Valentine said when I told him I wanted to start a dance school in Harlem. Quote, "Once you begin this, Arthur, you'll never sleep again." Well, how right he was. I used to go home at night and cry out of sheer exhaustion. But what made it work? It worked because everyone involved had a sense of ownership. It was our company, our school, and we made it our lives. Everyone gave everything he or she had to make it a success.
The first company that Mr. Mitchell formed consisted of only 4 dancers, and we were able to accomplish in 2 years what should have taken 10 years to do. I think it's because of his personality. He comes in like a hurricane, and he wants everything done yesterday. which is great because it doesn't give you time to worry about the aches and the pains and I can't do this and I'm not ready. You could never please him. There was no satisfying him, but he could still make you feel like you were doing such a great job that you just kept striving and striving. The lecture demonstrations, we realized very early were a very important part of our performance schedule. It was our way of building up an audience. It's something that I wish I had had as a youngster, to be exposed to the arts.
Do you remember a dance called the monkey? Hold us a minute, watch. Now say it like this here. A 5, a 6, a 7, 8. We do that. All you do is hold your back up, round your arms, and you're doing classical ballet arms. Remember the wobble? We go 5 and 6, 7 and 8. We do that. Or you just hold your back up, step, chassé, point, step, chassé, point. Remember in television, you may have seen this with the pony. It was like this. 5 and 6, 7, 8. All you do is point your toes, turn your legs out, and it's called step, party, shop, step, party, shop, step, party, shop. Give me 5.
That's the kind of reaction we got wherever we went. The audience would begin to understand that they could do something valuable too. I remember one child who strode into the school one day and came up to me and said, "Teach me something." Well, you can't say no to a kid like that. You take them and teach them from the very first lesson that they'll only get out of it what they put into it. These kids are not going to go wrong. They're not going to shoot drugs because they have that inner sense of pride. No one is going to put them down because of their skin color. They know that they can make it.
Mr. Mitchell is a perfectionist, and a lot of times people are too much satisfied with being so-so or iffy-iffy. And when you strive for perfection, even though you're never quite satisfied, you're always at your best, always at your peak.
He's instilled in us a sense of pride.
He stresses that dance is not only just dance for dance sake, it's a discipline. And in dance and through dance, you become more disciplined in your everyday life.
Yes, he turns many, many lives around. Mr. Mitchell takes people who seem to have very, very little talent, but he sees something more, something deeper in that individual, and he draws it out of them.
We take everybody. And Dance Theater of Harlem is not only a professional ballet company, we're also an accredited school of the Allied Arts. You can study costuming, arts administration, simple education, music, or stagecraft. Everyone can excel in something as long as they believe in themselves. One of our alumni is the musical director of the Brooklyn Philharmonic. One is at the wardrobe department at the Metropolitan Opera. We tell our dancers there is life after dance. As you know, this profession is very hard on the body. It's like being a professional athlete, and most dancers retire around the age of 35. So when a young man or woman comes to Dance Theater of Harlem, we try to prepare them for the rest of their lives.
Mr. Mitchell is a dynamic, energetic, maniac type of person. The energy is contagious. The dedication and the love and all of that is it just permeates everybody's being. I know this sounds corny probably, but it's true. When you're there, he just makes you want to do your best. And it's something that carries over into whatever you might want to do later on in life.
It's kind of interesting when I reflect on the kind of dancing and dedication and the kind of discipline I had to follow with working with Dance Theater of Harlem, how I've incorporated it in my work as a lawyer.
Arthur Mitchell was a man who really encouraged us to be the most that we could be. We spent years training not only our bodies, but our minds. And that, I think, was what helped me most in transferring from dance theater to medicine.
One of the things I learned from Mr. Mitchell was how important it is to work as part of a good team. So when I left the Dance Theater of Harlem, I joined another good team, IBM.
Let me boast a little about my family, because that's exactly what they are. We have become, in less than 20 years, one of the 5 major ballet companies in the United States of America. We also do more international touring than any other company in this country. I'm very, very proud of these young people of mine. They know also, wherever they go, that they are ambassadors for the United States. They are so articulate, so knowledgeable, so beautiful, so elegant. And when they walk into a room, they know who they are. We've danced command performances for royalty all over Europe. We've performed at the White House. We're currently at Kennedy Center. We've danced at the Metropolitan Opera, and we represented the United States of America at the closing ceremonies of the Olympics in 1984. Our Giselle was on national television last Christmas. And we've just crowned 20 years of hard work with a triumphant tour of the Soviet Union. I happen to have danced there 25 years ago, and now I was bringing my children back to Russia. Can you imagine a black ballet company from Harlem performing where the classical traditions are among the oldest and strongest in the world? We gave 32 performances to approximately 6,000 people per performance. They were sitting 2 and 3 on a chair, climbing up the walls of the theater, surrounding us in the streets, I mean, really bombarding us, and they just really loved us. And we showed that one of our greatest strengths was our diversity. We now have over 500 youngsters in the school, and they come to us also from foreign countries. The main thing we ask that when they finish at dance theater, they go back to their homes and teach for a while. We want them to remember the roots, the way we remembered ours. One of the proudest moments of my times and life at dance theater was our Harlem homecoming season last year. You see, there's a reason why Dance Theater of Harlem is in Harlem. Because we want to show it's the quality of what you do that's most important, not where you do it. Also, every month, we have an open house to show the community what we're doing. And every month, there are kids who can see for the first time what can be done. And kids who will come up and say, teach me something.
Working with dance theater, it's been like a family. Everyone's very nice. Everyone helps one another. It's a group effort. You know, we try to do teamwork. That's the whole basis, I think, of dance theater.
We have a school here, and we have so many young ones, and he's always drawing them in. He wants them to come in. Yeah, how old are you? 3, 2, and come in. We can start now. Start early. Start early, getting that discipline. Many times, kids come in here with no discipline at all, and before you know it, they're not only dancing better, but they're studying, they're doing their homework, they're doing much better in school, and they're becoming overall better kids to deal with.
Children are the future. You have to teach them and let them lead the way. I tell them, pick my brains. As you know, a lot of people don't like to give their secrets away, but I love to share because I feel the more you give, the more you're going to get. I'm tough on them, yes, even mean, but they know I want the best for them, so they try even harder.
Okay, dancers, let's take it from the top. Here we go, music. Take it easy, take it easy, take it easy. That's it. I believe that children are the future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside. La da da dum, dee bum. Now remember the hands here.
that's better.
I tell my students that luck is really a matter of training and education. You have to be ready for it. I can pass along the opportunities I had, but it's what you do with them that counts. And I'm very, very lucky. I got a chance to fulfill all of my childhood dreams. One, to be a dancer, to be a teacher, and yes, a social worker too. But I still have another dream. As you know, once you achieve a goal, you can get frustrated. You need new challenges all the time. My dream now is to build our school until we're a real Olympic village with kids from all over the world, a place for them to live, enough money to provide scholarships for anyone who needs one. And what I get out of all this is the best feeling of all, knowing that I've made the difference in someone else's life. I still want to convince every kid that walks in that door, you can do it because you're the greatest.
I believe children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside. And give them a sense of pride to make it easier. Let the children's laughter remind us how we used to be. I decided long ago never to walk in anyone's shadow. If I fail, if I succeed, at least I live the soul believe. No matter what they take from me, they can't take away my dignity. Because the great love of all was happening to me. I found the love of all inside of me. The greatest love of all is easy to achieve. Learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all. And if by chance that special place that you've been dreaming of leads you to a lonely place, find your strength in love.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Green for all? Thank you. Thank you again.
That was marvelous. Arthur, thank you very much.
Please.
Corrine and Adam, That was just marvelous. Well, we've celebrated a lot of people this morning. Heroes, Olympic winners, and our own area winners. And we've learned what people can achieve when they don't accept limits.
You walk on the moon, float like a balloon. You see, it's never too late and it's never too soon. Take it from me.